And Jud, welcome to the Big Ideas.
Thank you very much.
I want you to tell us your involvement really with NLC, and we want to make sure that people knows who our speakers are and what their involvement is.
Well, I currently serve as mayor of Gaithersburg, Maryland. I've been mayor for all of 4 months now. Previous to that, I was on the city council of Gaithersburg for 7 years, during which time I've attended a few NLC conferences. And actually, I'm going to allude to one thing during my presentation that was important that I learned while I was at NLC.
The big idea, Jud.
Thank you. My question today is what defines the culture of a city? Is it the food? Is it the landscape? Is it the music, the climate, the language? A big, well-established city may lay claim to any and all of these things and more. But a smaller city may have a tougher time capturing the attention of the wider world and cultivating such an identity. We all have great stories, but with smaller territory and fewer residents, sometimes our voices can fall into obscurity. Well, I'm going to tell you how my city is using a large regional scale cultural event to connect with the world and build our brand around a cultural endeavor, and hopefully give you some idea how your community might approach it if you were interested in doing something similar. One day each year, a lovely Saturday in May, as if there's been a slight disturbance in the cosmos, the center of the literary universe shifts and lands on an unlikely place. Many of the best writers on the planet start to arrive. Winners of the Pulitzer Prize, the National Book Award, the Man Booker Prize, the Newbery Medal, the Prince Honor. I can go on, but you get the point. We also start to see popular authors, the kind of authors who have penthouses at the very tops of the New York Times bestseller lists. We see celebrity authors arrive, political pundits, journalists, chefs, scientists, sports writers, and educators. They come to Gaithersburg, Maryland, a city about 35 minutes north of where we are today, a city of about 64,000 people. They come to meet thousands of fans, many from close by, but many others who come from all over the region, D.C., Virginia, Pennsylvania, Delaware, West Virginia, and beyond. They come to the Gaithersburg Book Festival, and on May 16th, just a couple months down the road, we're going to have our 6th one. This event is helping define our community to the wider world. The festival takes place on the lovely grounds of Gaithersburg City Hall, in the heart of a neighborhood called Old Town. Old Town's an area with great charm, but the business districts surrounding can use a little help. In fact, the main reason that we hold this event where we do is to showcase the area. After all, the first rule of revitalization I learned at National League of Cities is to give people a reason to be there. So we close the street and we clear the grassy areas in front of City Hall and behind, and we clear the parking lot and we replace it with these big giant tents, maybe 14 or 15 of them. In most of the tents, they are dedicated to our flagship program, which is our author presentations. We bring in amazing authors from all over the country and beyond. In fact, in May, we have 3 authors coming in from Europe. At any given time during these tents, there's an author speaking about his or her work. Fiction, nonfiction, children's, teens, history, mystery, sports, politics, pop culture. The fact is, if you have an interest in a topic, chances are there's a conversation going on at the book festival you want to be a part of. A couple of our tents are devoted to writing workshops for aspiring writers, kids or adults, who can have a chance to work with professionals on things like screenwriting or comedy writing or poetry. And the whole back area of the property is transformed into what we call the Children's Village, where in addition to getting a chance to meet and see some of the greatest authors in children's literature, our kids have performances, readings, activities, events, workshops, and more. We keep the kids busy, but they're very, very happy. And we have book sales, of course, exhibitors, food, and fun for everyone. Popular from the beginning, our attendance has grown each year and more than tripled in 5 years. In 2014, which was our most recent Gaithersburg Book Festival, we had 20,000 attendees, a significant portion of which is coming from out of town. Of those out-of-towners, according to our survey, 41% had or planned to eat, shop, and or stay in the city of Gaithersburg. So aside from the less quantifiable benefits of branding, there are very tangible economic benefits for our businesses. Beyond our physical attendees, untold thousands are watching our festival on television. For the past 4 years, C-SPAN's Book TV has broadcast our event live all day from Gaithersburg to a national audience. They also replay segments of it from time to time. And the program itself is growing from a single-day event to a year-round series of events, including a high school short story contest. We have book drives. We have additional author events. We have one coming up next month with mystery author Jeffrey Deaver, who you might remember from The Bone Collector. The event is definitely growing. Here we go. So the endeavor is a work in progress, but in 5 years we've established this as one of the very top literary events in the country, and certainly we've built Gaithersburg's brand and reputation as a cultural leader. I learned recently that the county library system was using our event as the keystone for an application for a grant for the National Endowment for the Arts. So if you're sitting there thinking that perhaps a cultural endeavor may be something you'd like to pursue with your community, here are 3 keys to success that I think were important for us. Key number 1, and most importantly, is choose the right type of event for the market. It just so happens that the DC area is a terrific market for books and for author events. And while there's plenty of anecdotal evidence to support this, there's actually a study that's done by a university each year ranking the areas, the nation's most literate cities. And they measure things like library usage and graduate degrees and book sales. And for the past several years, the DC metro area has been number 1. There also happens to be a great number of nationally known and wonderful authors and journalists who live in this area, who we were able to use as the starting point, excuse me for that pop, as a starting point for our program speakers. And yet, as we were surveying the landscape in planning this event, we saw that there were no communities in the area that were doing anything remotely on this scale. So we saw a great opportunity for Gaithersburg to take the lead. So if your city wants to build its brand with a cultural event, those are some of the things you want to consider when determining the type of event. Second key is do it at the right time. It just so happens that mid-May date is a spectacular time in the DC area, and it also happens to coincide with a lull in potentially competing author events, both regionally and nationally. And third is to get the whole community involved. I know we're bombarded by the overused phrase public-private partnership, but there's just no other way to view this endeavor because it's not as if a city staff, any city staff in the country, even with its talented people with logistics and event professionals on staff, nobody's got the experience and the time to identify authors and who have books coming out at a certain time of year and to deal with the publishing houses and to coordinate author events. It's just not something that's internal to a city. And so we work with this great group of a couple dozen volunteers from our community and actually from beyond Gaithersburg who play absolutely key roles, such as recruiting authors, coordinating our workshops, and executing our marketing efforts in coordination with the city and with our partners. These volunteers are absolutely the heart of our success. We have great support from our city council and from staff, our arts and events team, our public works, our police, but we offset about half the cost of the festival from private sponsorships, and our sponsors have a terrific opportunity to promote their organizations. So it's another example of getting the whole community involved. We also partner with the county school system, the county libraries, several local universities, local media, and certainly one of the nation's very best independent bookstores, Politics and Prose, which is our bookseller. So those are some of the main ingredients that have made us a success. But I want to, as I sort of start to wrap up here, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to sort of zoom in and talk about why I think this is so dear to our community and it's going to define us for many years. It's because author events are simply awesome. There's no better ambassadors for reading than authors themselves. They inspire us, and with their stories, they bring the world to our doorstep. Consider children's author Tom Engelberger, who he's appeared at our festival for 3 or 4 times, starting in our first year, 2010, which was before his book series really took off and became a big hit. His book, The Strange Case of the Origami Yoda, was about a young kid who was sort of a misfit, looked at as weird, and in order to connect with his classmates, he would fold up this origami Yoda character from Star Wars, and he'd speak to the kids through the character. Now, Engelberger is a master presenter. The guy draws, he tells jokes, he juggles, and he leads the kids through origami folding exercises so they can make their own characters. Really, to watch him is like watching a maestro conduct an orchestra, and you could sort of get a sense of that looking at the picture there. So I bring all this up to share this one story about the impact of this one author, one of hundreds of authors we've had, as related by one of his colleague authors, a guy named John Scavron. John wrote this story. He says, the first time I met Tom was at the Gaithersburg Book Festival. We had the same publisher at the time, and I remember it was right when the first book in his best-selling Origami Yoda series came out. The next time I came, I brought my 2 sons. Tom was there again, reading from the newest book in the series. His reading, his drawing, the way he interacted with the kids was magic. In fact, in the 45-minute interval, he turned my sons, one of whom was a reluctant reader, into diehard fans. I say was a reluctant reader because The Strange Case of the Origami Yoda changed that forever. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that Tom is my son's favorite author, and my son is passionate about these books in a way that brings a tear to my jaded author eye. You see, my son is autistic, and the hero of the Origami Yoda books, though not explicitly autistic, has many of the same challenges. This was, I believe, the first time he recognized himself in a book. And if the piles of homemade paper finger versions of Origami Yoda, Darth paper, Luke Sky folder, and many, many others is any indication, it had a profound impact on him. How great is that? For all the big reasons we do this, it's the individual stories like that that touch me the deepest. We are fostering generations of readers. We are defining our community to the world through cultural art, and your community can too. Join us on May 16th as we add another chapter to our community story with the Gaithersburg Book Festival. Thank you.
One second.
Yeah.
And Jud, I think one pertinent thing that I'd like to ask is it scalable? A little town in eastern Kentucky that says, I love that idea. Just give us an insight as to scale.
Absolutely. Our first festival, we had pretty much half the programming we currently have. We had about 50 authors, fewer workshops. The footprint of the festival itself was much smaller, and we've grown, and we're going to continue growing. So yes, if a smaller town wanted to do something like this, it'd be scalable. But I'd like to suggest that it may be books that would work in another town, but it may be some other kind of cultural endeavor that's going to be a better fit for you and that's going to automatically sort of scale right for your town. Thank you.
Super. Jud Ashman, Gaithersburg, Maryland.